In the deep silence of space, where stars shine like diamonds, there was a powerful empire known as the Zalari Empire. This empire had ruled many planets for thousands of years. Their people were wise, strong, and proud. But they had one very old tradition. No one could see the face of a royal Zalari princess unless they formed a soul bond with her. Now, the youngest princess of the empire, Princess Serena, had come of age. It was time for her to find someone who could bond with her. But there was a rule. The one who wished to bond with her must do so without seeing her face. Only after the bond was complete, her veil could be lifted. Many suitors from different alien species arrived at the royal palace. Tall beings with golden skin, glowing-eyed warriors, and noble diplomats from distant galaxies came to win the princess's hand. Each one had wealth, armies, or status. They were proud. But when they entered the bonding chamber and saw the princess, sitting behind a glowing veil, they changed their minds. "How can I bond with someone I cannot see?" one of them said. "This is foolish," said another. "I will not make a promise without knowing who she really is." One by one, they all refused. Some tried to peek through the veil using tricks. Others insulted the tradition and left in anger. The Zalari Empress, mother of Serena, sat quietly on her golden throne, watching her daughter grow more sad each day. Princess Serena had not spoken much. She stayed hidden behind the veil, her voice soft like the wind. No one cared about her heart. They only wanted her beauty, her power, or her title. But still, she hoped that one day someone would understand her without needing to see her face. Days passed. The galaxy whispered about the failure of the soul bond ceremony. War could return if the princess stayed unbonded. The Empress worried, but she still waited for one final visitor, and then a human arrived. His name was Jack Carter. He was not a prince. He had no ships, no armies, no treasures. He was just a pilot from Earth. His ship was old. His clothes were simple. No one knew why he had come. The guards laughed. "You think you can bond with a Zalari princess?" Dar. Suitors shook their heads. "He is just a human. They are too emotional, too weak." But the Empress raised her hand. "Let him enter." Inside the grand chamber, Jack stepped forward. He looked around with calm eyes. The floor was made of shining stone, the walls covered with ancient carvings. And there in the center sat Princess Serena behind the glowing veil. Jack bowed respectfully. "Hello, Your Highness," the princess said softly. "You are human. Why have you come?" Jack smiled, because everyone else left and you're still here? She was surprised. "Aren't you afraid? You cannot see my face." Jack shook his head. "A face doesn't show everything. I want to know what kind of person you are." Sirana felt something stir in her chest. No one had said that before. They talked. Not about power, not about war, but about stories. Jack told her about Earth, about rain, and old legends of heroes who loved without seeing. Serena shared her love for music and the stars. Her voice grew more open, more alive. Jack listened carefully, not judging, not rushing. Outside, the Empress watched from a hidden screen. Her eyes were sharp, but her lips curved slightly. Her daughter was smiling behind the veil. It had been a long time since that happened. In the following days, Jack returned again and again. Each time, he brought something simpler, a song from Earth, a drawing he made, or a story from his childhood. The princess always waited, and their talks grew longer. Some royal advisors were not pleased. "This human is not worthy," said one. "He is a distraction." "This is a mistake," said another. But the Empress answered calmly, "No alien has made my daughter laugh in years. This human has done it in days." One afternoon, Jack asked, "Do you like stars?" "Yes," Serena replied. "They make me feel less alone." Jack looked at the sky above the palace dome. "Maybe we're all just trying to shine, even when no one sees us." Serena's hand, hidden behind the veil, touched the air softly toward him, but not yet reaching. But outside the palace, trouble was growing. Some alien leaders felt insulted that a human was being allowed into the bonding ceremony. They believed it broke the tradition. Whispers of jealousy and sabotage began to spread through the galaxy. Back in the chamber, Jack noticed something. "You're scared, aren't you?" he asked gently. Serena hesitated. "Yes. Everyone says I'm not perfect. They don't know what happened to my face." Jack sat down on the smooth floor. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real." In the silence that followed, something powerful bloomed between them. Not love. Not yet, but a seed of something honest. Princess Serena whispered, "Would you still return tomorrow?" Jack looked straight at the veil and nodded. "I'll return as long as you want me to." And that night, under the twin moons of the Zalari world, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. For the first time in 100 years, the impossible felt possible. Jack Carter came again the next day, just as he promised. The palace guards no longer laughed at him. Some looked at him with quiet respect, while others remained cold, but Jack didn't care. He walked through the glowing halls of the Zalari palace with steady steps, carrying a small bag on his shoulder. Princess Serena sat behind her glowing veil as always. But today, there was a new warmth in her voice when she said, "You returned." Jack smiled. "Of course. I told you I would." He sat down on the smooth white floor in front of her. He pulled out something from his bag, a small wooden box. "What is that?" Serena asked, curious. Jack opened the box. Inside were tiny figures carved from wood. "These are Earth game pieces. It's called chess." "Want to learn?" Serena giggled softly. "A war game?" Sorta, Jack said. "But it's also about thinking, planning, and understanding your opponent. Even the smallest piece can change the whole game." Jack taught her how the knight moved in L shapes, how the queen was powerful, and how the pawns could become anything if they reached the end. Serena learned quickly. She was smart and careful. "Checkmate," she said after a few rounds. Jack laughed. "You're dangerous." Serena smiled behind the veil. She liked how Jack treated her not as a princess, not as a mystery, but as a real person. Over the next few days, their meetings became longer. Jack shared more stories from Earth, some funny, some sad. He told her about his little sister who loved the stars, and about his father, who'd fixed old ships with his bare hands. Serena listened closely. "Your people feel so much." Jack nodded. "We do, sometimes too much. But that's what makes us human." Serena was quiet for a moment, and she whispered, "My people hide their feelings. We cover pain with pride. Even now I hide behind this veil." Jack didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then softly he said, "You don't have to hide from me." But Serena still couldn't remove the veil. It was not just traditional, it was her fear. She had been in an accident many years ago. A fire during a ship attack had left her with deep scars on one side of her face. Since then, she wore the glowing veil. Even her family rarely saw her without it. She believed no one could love her if they saw her face. But Jack never asked to see it. He never pushed her. That made her feel safe. Meanwhile, outside the bonding chamber, trouble was rising. Alien leaders who had failed to bond with Serena began to complain. Some called meetings with the Empress. Others threatened to leave the Royal Alliance. "This human is no prince," said a red-skinned warrior from the Moltrak race. "How can you allow this foolish match?" "He has no army, no wealth, no power," said another. "It is an insult to our people." But the Empress, calm and wise, answered, "And yet he has done what none of you could. He has earned my daughter's trust." The advisors were not happy. One of them, a sharp-eyed alien named Varnak, watched the situation closely. He had once hoped to bond with Serena, but she rejected him. Now, jealousy burned in his heart. "Humans are clever," Varnak whispered to himself. "But cleverness is not enough. He must fail the final test." Yes, the final test. To form a soul bond, Jack had to pass the Crystal Mazan ancient trial, meant to test the truth inside a person's soul. Back in the chamber, Serena and Jack played another round of chess. Serena looked thoughtful. "Tomorrow," she said, "my mother will speak to you about the bonding test." Jack nodded. "I heard about it. The Crystal Maze, right?" Serena lowered her voice. It's dangerous. Fear? Some never return. Jack looked into the veil, trying to imagine her expression. Do you think I'll pass? I don't know, she whispered, but I hope you do. For the first time, Serena placed her hand against the glowing veil. Jack slowly raised his own hand, placing it against hers from the other side. Their hands didn't touch, but the energy between them felt warm. Neither spoke. The moment said everything. Later that evening, the Empress called Jack to her private garden. The stars twinkled above them. Beautiful trees with glowing leaves surrounded the area. I have watched you, she said. You are different from the others. But bonding with a Zellery princess is no small thing. Jack bowed. I understand, Your Majesty. The crystal maze will test your soul, the Empress continued. You will face what you hide, will feel what you fear. Only those with true hearts pass. I'm ready, Jack said. The Empress studied him for a long moment, and she nodded. Good. You may enter the maze at dawn. Jack walked back to his chamber, his heart heavy with thought. He wasn't afraid of monsters or traps. He was afraid of something else, losing Serena, losing the only person in the galaxy who truly saw him. Serena sat alone in her chamber, her fingers touching the chess piece Jack had left behind her. Knight, brave and humble, I believe in you, she whispered, and far above, the stars watched quietly as a bond, made of trust and courage, slowly grew stronger to face the trials ahead. The sun rose over the shining towers of the Zellery Palace. Light passed through crystal walls, turning the halls into glowing rivers of color. It was a special day, the day of the Crystal Maze trial. Jack Carter stood at the edge of the ancient maze, wearing a simple suit made for protection. Around him, silent guards and advisors watched. Above, the Empress and Princess Serena looked down from a high balcony. Inside the maze, there were no walls made of stone. It was made of living crystals, which changed shape based on the person who entered the maze. Didn't test strength, it tested the soul. A Zellery elder stepped forward. You may begin, human. Face your truth. Jack nodded and walked inside. The entrance closed behind him. Inside, everything was silent. The crystals around him began to glow and shift. Suddenly, Jack saw something, a memory from his childhood. He stood in his old home on Earth. His little sister, Leela, was crying. Their parents were fighting in the next room. Young Jack wanted to help but felt too small, too weak. The room filled with cold fear. Jack whispered, This is not real. This is the maze. But the memory spoke to his heart. The feeling of being helpless, of watching someone you love suffer it, was still deep inside him. He walked forward. The memory faded. Now he saw another vision, himself, failing during flight training. His ship had spun out of control. His teammates had been angry. Jack had blamed himself for months. I've made mistakes, he said softly, but I kept going. The maze didn't speak, but it listened. As he moved deeper, the air grew heavy. A final vision appeared. This time, it was Princess Serena, but in the vision, she pulled off her veil, and her face was broken and burned. She screamed, You lied? You said you didn't care, but you looked away. Jack stepped back in shock. The image felt too real. He wanted to run. He felt fear. But then, he remembered her voice. The way she laughed during their chess games. The way she whispered, I believe in you. Jack took a deep breath. This is not Serena. You're just my fear. Not afraid of her face. I'm afraid of losing her trust. The image cracked like glass, and the light around him grew warm. The crystal in the center of the maze began to glow. Jack stepped forward and touched it. A soft chime echoed through the maze. The trial was over. Outside the maze, everyone waited in silence. It had been over an hour. Some aliens began to whisper, thinking the human had failed. Varnock, the jealous Zellery advisor, stood near the Empress, trying to hide his smirk. But then, a door opened and Jack walked out. His face was tired, his shirt was dusty, but his eyes were calm. The Empress rose. The human has passed the crystal maze. The trial of the soul is complete. The crowd gasped. Some cheered. Others stayed quiet. Varnock clenched his fists behind his back. Later that day, Jack met Serena again in the bonding chamber. "I saw things in the maze," he said. "Things I thought I had forgotten," Serena asked. "Did you see me?" Jack nodded, "Yes. But it wasn't really you. It was my fear of losing what we've built." Serena whispered, "I'm afraid to." Then, slowly, she told Jack the truth, a story she had never told anyone. "When I was younger," she said, "I went to help in a starship hospital during a war. There was a surprise attack. A fire broke out. I helped others escape, but I was trapped for a while." She paused. "My face was badly burned. My people believe royalty must look perfect, so I was told to wear the veil. They said I could only show my face after someone bonded with me." Jack's eyes did not look away. "You helped others. You were brave." "That's what I see." Serena's voice broke a little. "What if I show you and you don't want me anymore?" Shh. Leaned closer. "Then I don't deserve you." Silence filled the room. Then Serena placed her hand on the veil. It glowed brighter for a moment, then faded, but she did not lift it, not yet. Elsewhere in the palace, Varnock paced angrily. He had worked for years to rise in the Empress's court. He wanted power. He wanted Serena not for love, but to control the future, and now a human had taken everything. He met secretly with 2 guards he had bribed. "We will stop this bonding ceremony," he whispered. "One way or another," the guards nodded. They carried small poison drone silent machines that could fly without being seen. Their target, Princess Serena, back in the bonding chamber. Serena and Jack were talking softly. For the first time, she laughed without fear. Then Jack's eyes caught something, a flash of silver near the ceiling. "Get down," he shouted. Serena dropped to the floor as the drone flew past. Jack jumped up, grabbed a nearby staff, and smashed the drone in one powerful swing. Sparks flew as it crashed. Another drone flew in. Jack pulled Serena behind the crystal wall and used his body to shield her. Guards rushed in. The drones were destroyed quickly. The Empress entered moments later, her eyes cold with anger. "Who sent these?" she asked. "One guard, scared and hurt," whispered Varnock. The Empress turned to her advisors. "Find him. He will pay for this." That night, Jack sat beside Serena in the garden. The stars above were quiet, but the air around them felt alive. "You've saved my life," Serena said softly. "You've saved me too," Jack replied. She looked at him. "Do you still want to complete the bond?" Jack nodded. "More than anything." Serena smiled behind the veil. "And tomorrow, I will show you who I really am." And so, under the light of 1,000 stars, 2 souls prepared to become one, not through looks or titles, but through truth, trust, and courage. The next morning, the palace of Zelaria was filled with excitement. Servants cleaned the long crystal halls. Guards stood in shiny armor. The royal court waited for something very important, the final part of the soul bonding ceremony. After many trials, after much doubt, Princess Serena and Jack Carter, the human pilot, were ready. If the ceremony was successful, Jack would become the first human to bond with a Zelari royal. But it would not be easy. Before the bond could be completed, Jack had to face one more test, the trial of courage. Inside the Empress's private hall, Jack stood with calm eyes and a steady heart. His clothes were simple, but his spirit was strong. The Empress sat on her throne. Princess Serena stood beside her, still behind the glowing veil. "Jack Carter," the Empress said, "you have passed the crystal maze. You have gained my daughter's trust. But the final test is different." "I'm ready," Jack replied. "This test," she continued, "is not just for you. It is also for Serena. You must both prove that your bond is real." Jack looked at Serena. She gave a small nod. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was calm. "I believe in you," she whispered. They were taken to the Chamber of Trials, a large round room deep inside the palace. The walls were made of dark stone. In the center was a small platform. On it stood 2 glowing orbs, the bond crystals. An elder stepped forward. Must both place your hands on the crystals. Then the chamber will test your courage. If your bond is true, you will succeed. If not, the crystals will reject you. Jack reached out first. Serena slowly stepped forward, still behind her veil. Her hand trembled, but she placed it on the second crystal. The moment both hands touched the crystals, a bright light filled the room. Then everything went dark. Jack blinked. It was no longer in the chamber. He stood on the edge of a metal bridge, high above a burning planet. Fire rained from the sky. The bridge shook. At the other end stood Serena, calling out to him. "Jack, help me." He ran toward her, but the bridge broke. He barely held on. Below him was endless fire. His arms burned. He was scared. "This is not real," he said. "It's the test." But the fear felt real. The pain felt real. Then he remembered her voice, her trust, her belief in him. He pulled himself up, ran across the broken bridge, and grabbed Serena's hand. The world vanished. Now he stood in a quiet garden. Serena was sitting beside a pond. She looked peaceful. The veil was gone. Her face was fully visible, part of it scarred, but her eyes were soft and kind. She looked at him. "Do you still want me?" Jack knelt beside her. "I've always wanted you, not your face." Serena smiled. Her image faded into soft light. Back in the real world, the bond crystals glowed brighter. Energy flowed between Jack and Serena. Everyone watching could feel the power in the air. Then, something no one expected happened. The veil began to fade. Light surrounded Princess Serena. When the glow disappeared, the veil was gone. She stood there, showing her real face. One side was smooth and beautiful. The other had silver lines and faint scars. But her eyes were bright like stars, filled with courage. The room was silent. Jack stepped forward. He looked at her face with gentle eyes. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," he said. Serena's heart felt full, "and you are the first person who saw me before anyone else did." They both reached for the bond crystals again. This time, when they touched the crystals, a golden light filled the room. It rose to the ceiling, forming a large symbol of unity above them. The bond was complete. Outside the chamber, the Empress stood with her advisors. Most of them clapped softly. Some bowed. But one figure was missing, Varnock, the jealous advisor who had tried to harm the princess earlier. Varnock had escaped after the poison drone attack failed. Now he waited in the shadows of the palace, planning one final move. That night a celebration began across the palace. Lanterns floated in the sky. Music played. People from different worlds gathered to honor the bond between a human and a Zalari princess. Serena walked beside Jack, no longer hiding her face. Many people looked at her scars, but more looked at her smile. And when they saw Jack holding her hand, they saw something stronger than beauty. They saw love and courage. The Empress gave a speech from her throne. Today, we witness something rare. A bond not made by power or looks or fear. A bond made by truth, trust, and heart. She turned to Jack. "You came with nothing, but you gave everything." Jack bowed. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only followed my heart." As the music played and stars filled the sky, Serena whispered to Jack, "Do you think we'll be accepted across the galaxy?" Jack smiled. "Maybe not by all, but enough." "And if some still doubt us?" she asked. Jack gently squeezed her hand. "Then we'll show them what true bonding looks like." Just then, a servant ran to the Empress. "Your Majesty, Varnock has been spotted near the shipyard." The Empress's smile faded. "We must not let him harm the peace we just built." Guards were sent. The celebration continued, but a shadow now moved in the distance. Serena looked at Jack. "I don't want to lose what we've built." "You won't," Jack said. "Not as long as I'm with you." And with that promise, under the glowing moons of Zalari, their bond became not just a personal connection, but a symbol of hope for every world that once believed such a thing was impossible. After the bonding ceremony, the Zalari palace was filled with celebration. Beautiful lights danced across the sky. Musicians played soft music from every corner. Flowers from distant worlds floated in the air. Joy had returned to the hearts of many, but for Jack Carter and Princess Serena, this night meant something much deeper. For the first time in many years, Serena had shown her true face to the world. She stood without her glowing veil, could now see her silver scars. But no one mocked her. Instead, they saw a strong and brave woman, and they saw the human who stood beside her, proud and fearless. Later that evening, Serena and Jack stood on the palace balcony, away from the crowd. The sky above them was filled with stars. Cool wind touched their faces gently. Serena looked at Jack. "Do you remember the first time we met? You didn't ask anything about my face?" Jack smiled, because I wanted to know what was behind the veil, not just what it looked like. Serena touched one of the scars on her cheek. "Many people feared me after the accident. Some pitied me. Others ignored me. But you simply listened." Jack looked into her eyes. "Because I didn't come for your title. I came because I heard your voice, and I wanted to hear more." Eyes softened. She reached for his hand. "I was so afraid to be seen. But now, standing here with you, I feel stronger than ever." They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars together. Meanwhile, inside the palace walls, something dark was moving. Varnock, the jealous Zelari advisor, had returned. He wore a black cloak and moved like a shadow between the pillars. He was not alone. He had a small group of rebels warriors who believed the princess should never bond with a human. "The people are weak," Varnock hissed. "They cheer for this foolish bond. They forget who we are." One of the rebels asked. "What is your plan now?" Varnock's eyes burned. "We end this bond tonight. If we cannot break the ceremony, we destroy the human." Back on the balcony, Serena looked at the city below. "Do you think the other planets will accept us?" she asked. Jack thought for a moment. "Some will. Others might take time. But what we have is real, and that's what matters." Serena nodded. "The bond isn't just about love or power. It's about trust, about choosing each other even when the world says no." Suddenly, Jack heard something, a soft sound, like footsteps on the stone. He turned quickly. A dark figure appeared near the balcony door. "Serena, get behind me!" he shouted. 3 rebels rushed forward with weapons. Jack grabbed a shield from the wall and stood in front of her. The rebels attacked, but Jack fought back bravely, leave-block strikes, and pushed them away. Serena pressed the emergency alarm on her wrist. One rebel tried to grab her, but Jack blocked him with his shoulder and knocked him to the ground. More guards arrived within moments. The rebels were captured, but Varnock was gone again, escaping through the shadows. Later in the royal hall, the Empress stood with her advisors. "This attack is proof that not all are ready for peace," she said. "But we will not bow to fear." Jack stood beside Serena, his arm wrapped in bandages from the fight. "I won't leave," he said. "Not now, not ever." Serena looked at him with proud eyes. "And I won't let them take away our bond." The Empress nodded. "Then we will stand strong together." The next day, the Empress made an announcement across all systems of the Zelari Empire. She stood before a great crowd and said, "My daughter, Princess Serena, has formed a soul bond with a human. This bond was built not on power or beauty, but on truth and courage." She continued, "There are those who still fear change, but we cannot let fear guide our future." She raised her hand. "From this day forward, Jack Carter shall be known as Starheart, protector of the princess, in symbol of unity between humans and the Zelari." People across the empire cheered. On Earth, news of the bond reached the people. Humans watched in wonder as one of their own became part of an alien royal family. Children wore masks shaped like the princess's old veil, then removed them to show their faces proudly. Teachers spoke about kindness and bravery. The bond had become more than a ceremony, it had become a message of hope. That evening, Serena and Jack returned to the same balcony. "You're now a symbol," Serena said playfully. "Does it feel strange?" Jack chuckled. "A little. I was just a pilot from Earth. Now I'm Starheart." Serena touched his hand. To me, you'll always be Jack, the one who chose to know me without needing to see me. He smiled. And to me, you'll always be the girl who beat me in chess. She laughed. It was a warm, true laugh, full of joy. Jack looked at the stars. Do you ever think about where we're going next? Serena nodded. Together. We can visit both our worlds, can build bridges between species, maybe help others bond the way we did. Jack looked into her eyes. Then let's do it. Let's show the galaxy that what we have is possible. And so, under the endless sky, with stars watching above and hope blooming below, the human and the princess stood hand in hand. No veil, no fear, only truth. Their journey was far from over. But one thing was clear. Together, they were stronger than anyone believed. Months had passed since the great bonding ceremony. The stars shone brighter in the skies of the Zalari Empire, and peace had spread across many worlds. The bond between Princess Serena and Jack Carter had become a symbol of hope and unity throughout. The galaxy, Jack, had learned the ways of the Zalari, their customs, their language, and their honor. Amazed, had visited Earth with him, amazed by its blue oceans and green forests. Together, they had shown both their peoples that difference was not a barrier, but a bridge. In the palace, the Empress had announced her retirement. It was time for Serena to take her place as ruler of the Zalari Empire. She stood tall, no longer a princess hiding behind a veil, but a queen, proud and strong. Jack stood at her side, not as a servant, not as a soldier, but as her partner. In a quiet room filled with books and star maps, the two sat together. Do you remember when I first came here? Jack asked, smiling. Serena laughed softly. You were just a simple pilot. No one believed you could bond with me. Jack shrugged. Maybe that was my advantage. No one expected me to try without seeing your face. Serena reached out and held his hand. You saw me, not just my face, but my heart. That made all the difference. But not everyone had accepted their bond. There were still worlds in the galaxy that looked at humans with suspicion. Some feared the new alliance. Others whispered that the princess had made a mistake. One day, a message arrived from the Council of Systems, the galaxy's governing body. They wanted to meet the new queen and her human partner. The meeting would decide the future of the alliance. Serena and Jack prepared for the journey. It was their chance to prove to all that unity was possible. The council chamber was vast, filled with leaders from many planets. Some wore shining robes. Others had armor made of strange metals. When Serena and Jack entered, silence fell. One leader, a tall figure with glowing blue skin, spoke first. Queen Serena, your bond with a human is unusual. Many fear this union. Serena stood confidently. Fear comes from the unknown. But my bond with Jack is real, is built on trust and courage, not on fear or tradition. Jack added, we come to show that differences are strengths. Together, we can face the galaxy's challenges. Some leaders nodded slowly. Others whispered among themselves. After hours of talks, the council voted. The result was clear. The bond was accepted. The human and Zalari alliance would stand strong. Cheers filled the chamber. Serena smiled at Jack. We did it. Jack squeezed her hand. Together, anything is possible. Years passed. Under Queen Serena's rule, the Zalari Empire and the humans worked together on many projects, new starships. Shared technology and peaceful missions to unexplored worlds. Jack became a symbol of hope, not just a human among aliens, but a bridge between two worlds. On Earth, children learned about the princess who wore a veil and the human who loved her beyond the surface. Schools taught about courage, kindness, and the power of trust. One evening, Serena and Jack walked in the palace garden. The twin moons cast soft light over the flowers. Serena looked at Jack. Do you think our story will last forever? Jack smiled. Stories change with time. But the truth we shared, the courage to trust, will always live on. Serena rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you for seeing me when no one else would. Jack kissed her forehead. Thank you for trusting me. Together, They looked up at the stars bright, endless, and full of promise. The galaxy was vast and sometimes lonely, but in their bond, two souls had found home. And in doing so, they changed the stars,